Hello, Vicky. Welcome back. And so last time we had a conversation about Taliban. We had a lot of to discuss, and now again there is a lot more to discuss. And formally, they have announced their government there in Afghanistan. No, I think nobody was very much surprised the way the government was formed. They said not many different things. That there would be, equal partnership of all the tribes of Afghanistan in this, and then secondly, there will be women representatives also in this government. It is going to be a very inclusive government, but looks like all that was just a farce, and they came out with a new government, and as everybody expected, it seems like more and more Talibani and basically China and Pakistan backed government now.
See, about the women representation, it was very clear that they won't be, and Taliban themselves said, that they can be volunteers, they can be, part of a police force, all this, but definitely no involvement. There will not be a single woman minister. That they had made it very clear last week itself. So there was no doubt about that. But the thing is, the inclusion of, the Haqqanis, and I see at least 4 Haqqani names, including Sirajuddin Haqqani, actually. Right. So that actually, kind of it kind of, it's you can easily say that it's not something that you can trust them anymore, because you see, Akash, one thing is that this Haqqani is actually much more extreme than his father. Okay, and another thing is that should also keep in mind, it was this Sirajuddin Haqqani who was the one primarily responsible for the destruction of Indian construction and the projects that India had undertaken. So that remains to be seen, that when a man like this is part of this government. So, it's particularly not kind of distressing for India, when we talk in terms of, future ties and, future relations with them. So, and also one more thing, he's, a US designated terrorist, one, okay, designated there, carries a bounty of $10 million on his head, one. And if you also see, one thing is the relationship is such, North Waziristan, when they were hiding Osama bin Laden, also, they were being protected by the Haqqani network out there. And the US had given clear intelligence a couple of years back, saying that, there are a lot of senior commanders of the Al-Qaeda who are in North Waziristan, one. So you have to carry out aerial attacks out there, which Pakistan flatly refused. So that is mainly to do with the fact is that particular area in North Waziristan, that was the Haqqani hideout out there, basically. And they did not want to, Pakistan did not want to anger them in any kind of way. So the inclusion of the Haqqanis, while not surprising, but, but it's still, kind of very, very distressing, I would say.
Right, exactly. And like we news were coming in that Pakistan is basically pushing Haqqanis into the government. And how would now US react? Because when Joe Biden has said that they don't want to deal with designated terror organizations or terrorists in a government, and now that Haqqani is a part of the government, and of course there will be diplomatic talks between between US and Afghanistan. How would US see this move?
Definitely, they are going to be, it is kind of I would say a letdown for them, because, they were very, very clear that, don't indulge with any terrorist organization, like, be it Haqqani network or, be it ISIS or Al-Qaeda for that matter. Like, I would keep ISKP out for the moment, for now, because, I don't see how the relationship between the Taliban and ISKP are going to, nurture or, deteriorate in future. But Al-Qaeda definitely, one. It's not like, because the Haqqanis are, just the Taliban, of course, the relationship that they share with all these people. So what happens is, now with the inclusion of Sirajuddin Haqqani, what tends to happen now is that it starts making the relationship with the US extremely complex right now. In any kind of talks, this is going to be an irritational value. And it's not like, any of these groups, have anything, remotest of respect or anything for the US. But when the deal very clearly said that you don't indulge with terror groups or terrorists basically, and then you put him right there into your ministry there. So it's going to be extremely complex. And every talk, I mean, at least for some time, it is going to fail because of this aspect. Because you have signed a peace deal based on this, and then you've gone back and done exactly the opposite. So as I said, it's going to be an extremely complex start to whatever talks the US and the Taliban government are going to have.
Exactly. And apart from that, Vicky, if I talk in terms of how if we say India looks at it, so like India has a lot of infrastructure there in Afghanistan, which is there. It is still in the process to be made because of the power struggle, and everything went for a toss, but India will definitely go back. How do you see that India is going to now see this new government in Afghanistan? Would there be further talks? Of course, as we have in the past have also said, the talk is much more important. But now you know what it looks like. Now we understand what does the structure of the government there in Taliban looks like. Now, how will India approach it?
See, currently, when we look at the whole structure, what has happened there is, there's not been any very clear stand by the Taliban or, for that matter, the Haqqani network, where relations with India is concerned. They've only been very broadly saying that, we are a Taliban 2.0, basically. We are not the Taliban 1.0. So the rule is going to be very, very different. See, currently, as I say, the India scenario, we need to keep talking on all the world forums, etc. The CI chief was here, the Russian NSA is here. So this is how pretty much our talks, and, to get a feel of the whole situation there, and, we start talking through others first, and then, until we make what is that? Some kind of a start out there. Okay. And in the current setup, I don't see any talks happening immediately there. And I don't think it's the right time now to start infrastructure projects or, recommence projects or anything of that, because it's very, very fragile, the situation out there. And as I pointed out earlier, it was the same Haqqani who was responsible for the destruction of many, many of our construction projects and, our road projects, etc. So beginning there itself on a hostile.
Exactly, and let's talk about what is happening right now in Afghanistan. A lot of protests is happening. A lot of anti-Pakistan and anti-Taliban protests are happening, and majorly it is the women who are taking participation in this. And we have seen a lot of images coming in that Taliban are using force to disperse all these protests. Gunfires were shot in the air, and a lot of different things are happening. What kind of a message does it send to the world for Taliban? That on one hand they say that they are going to be much more liberal. Photographs are coming out of university. They're basically using curtains to divide men and women. Though women are allowed to sit in the classes, but there is a divide there. And then women are protesting on the streets. Guns are being pulled at them, telling them to go back. So all these things. So on one hand, they are saying one thing, but the images that are coming out of Afghanistan and Kabul are a lot different. Does that affect their image because they are trying to build a new image for themselves on the world forum, but it looks like they are saying something else, and what is happening on the ground is absolutely totally different.
See, to put it in one line, the protests, and this gunfire which happens, to disperse these crowds, etc. To just put it in one line, it's a message that they try to convey that you take what we give. You don't ask for what you want. Okay, that is one thing. All right, one. So obviously, in a scenario like this, after 20 years, without the Taliban almost, and now they're back. So the memories of 20 years back will definitely be haunting them. One, we've seen how they've treated women at that time, and I mean, considering the number of factions, that there are there within this government or, within the Taliban itself, there's one school of thought which talks something, the other school of thought talks something else. One. Okay, so I don't see anything, great in terms of women's right. Although the women themselves have said we don't have, any problem in wearing the burqa, hijab and going out. That is not our issue, but we should be allowed to study. One, we should be allowed to study. We should be allowed to work. Now, these while the study aspect has been taken care of, that is one. the work aspect we need to see, how much they will live up. Because one very telling picture was that Taliban guy, asking the news anchor, that lady, to get up and leave, and then he took over the news show. So, pretty much kind of a very, very loud signal which was said. Protests will continue, but they'll keep putting it down because, that's not their style of governance. Protest is allowed only in a democracy, and it is not exactly a democracy one. They will continue to, scuttle these voices. But these women, very understandably so, they want to be made heard to the rest of the world. One, rest of the world, that our rights are being taken away and, it should be protected. It may not be as rigid as what it was towards the women, at least in public, one. But I mean, I still don't trust the Taliban when they say a lot of things. That is one thing I still don't, because that peaceful Taliban, as we discussed last time, is an oxymoron. That is one.
Correct. And if we talk about what has happened, there was a resistance force there in Afghanistan, the National Resistance Force that was there in Panjshir, and it was basically crushed. What Taliban is saying that it has been crushed, but what the fighters are saying that the organization is saying that there are few fighters there still in the Panjshir Valley who will continue the struggle for independence from Taliban. Do you see that India will recognize this, or will India not recognize what is happening in Panjshir at all?
I would feel that India should recognize it. Okay, that is one. Okay, and many more in the world should come out. But as I said, we are playing a little bit of a wait and watch game on this whole thing, basically, because the key players, like if you see, they said, for the installation of the government, 6 countries they had invited, which included, Iran, China, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi, and one more country. I think it was Qatar. Okay, this one. So, see, now they are saying that that is a message saying that, these are the major players, who will, decide things and, will be in talks. And each one has got the whole, what is that, an agenda there basically. Pakistan, of course, very open agenda, one, that is one. China, the projects, one project. Turkey would like to, what is that, fill in their goods into the Taliban and, in the terms of trade. Okay, that is one part of this. And of course, Iran for more stability in the region. That is one. It's another question of how many will end up going there, because Chinese Foreign Ministry refused to comment on the issue. Said we don't know anything about it. Okay, that's how it is. So each one is keeping a distance because nobody wants to go put their foot in right now and then get it all horribly wrong, because it can be a very embarrassing situation and it does affect regional security quite a lot.
Exactly. And anyway, in terms of what relationship Afghanistan is looking at with China, they made it a lot clear that they want to be the partner of the CPEC. So does that affect India's interest also in the region, because India has been steadfast against the CPEC, and what would be the India stand if Afghanistan gets into CPEC?
I don't think it is going to affect us so badly or anything of that sort, Akash. I don't think, India will have any, see, India's primary concern will always be, peace and, in the region. So as long as, let's see, if they want to be part of the CPEC, the thing is, a large part of the responsibility of guarding the project also falls upon the Taliban within their own territory. That is one. So there's not much we have to do, in the scenario like that. Okay, we need to look after our interests. And currently, I would see our biggest problem is any kind of regional instability. They're openly making terrorist ministers. Then what is the guarantee that they will not allow a terror launchpad to be hosted in Afghanistan? So this is what it is. Very early days, as I said, we had talks with the US. We're having talks with the Russians. The Russians themselves have acknowledged that, there is a danger of, terror spreading into both Russia as well as India because of this problem which is happening there in Afghanistan. So these are our immediate concerns.
Right. And now coming back very much close to the home, Abdullah has said that about Taliban, that they are very happy that Taliban has actually made a government there in Afghanistan, and they want them to run the government like like according to Islamic rules. So, what do you read out of this statement?
Okay, that is one thing that I would say, playing to the gallery back in Jammu and Kashmir, that is one. Okay, I would see that as a statement. Okay, one. And of course, there's a very lace thing of saying, that, they should rule as per Islamic rules. Now, each Islamic country interprets their Sharia very, very differently. If you see all those 8-10 countries, or, I'm not sure of the figure how many countries, but the thing is, each one has interpreted it extremely, very, very differently. Okay, sometimes it's absolutely, it looks absolutely very peaceful, the solution. Sometimes it is flogging, sometimes it is beheading and things like that. So I don't know what Dr. Abdullah is exactly trying to say. But I would see it more in the concept of saying that, many people, asking for Islamic law back in Jammu, Kashmir or something. So, just stir up the honestness. He's just playing to the gallery back home, nothing else.
And do you feel that, after the demise of Gilani, there would be a resurgence, or there would be a different kind of separatist movement now there in Jammu and Kashmir?
I see. One thing is there, Akash. At the time when S.S. Gilani died, basically, I mean, he was pretty much done and dusted. I would say he was not didn't have that the olden days where he could stir up passions, etc. All that he did not have. He was there. He was a very symbolic figure in the separatist movement. That's about it. Separatist movement. They will continue. There is no doubt about it. But Akash, one thing what has happened is, the reason it has gone down so much is, one main reason is that the NIA's multiple probes along with the Jammu Kashmir police in trying to squeeze out the funds and block all the money routes is what is killing that movement there, basically, because there's absolutely no profit now to make. Because if you kind of see the figures and this one which have reached them, I mean, they are mind-boggling, to the extent their children are abroad studying. Asiya Andrabi's son wants to play cricket, and he, I think, is in Malaysia. So, this kind of thing, but once the fund squeeze happens anywhere, I think those moments are pretty much done.
Right. And like, it would be very interesting to see that what would be the talks between, CIA's chief in India, who is there, and of course, Russia's NSA, who is also in India. And of course, India will have with the BRICS summit coming in, and with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit also coming in within the span of 10 to 15 days. What will be India's, Russia's stand in terms of, and of course, China will also be there in both these meetings, in both these summits. So what would China's stand will be there because it is going to be very Afghanistan heavy summit for in both these I think summits that are going to happen. So let's wait and watch, and of course we'll definitely keep on connecting in all these issues. Thank you once again, Vicky, for coming in and sharing your insight about whatever is happening in Afghanistan as of now.
Sure, Akash. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Subscribe to One India channel and never miss an update.